The 11th Plague is about a boy named Stephen and his life after the collapse. And the collapse happens because America and China are at war, and China sends over P11, which is the 11th Plague, and it basically wipes out all of America's population, and the government crumbles, the military crumbles, and it's just a bad deal. And Stephen, he's alone because his mom's died, his dad's died, his grandpa's died due to the conditions of the plague. But he has found a family who has taken him in and provided shelter, food, education, and has given him a home. And he meets this girl named Jenny, and they fall in love, and they start hanging out, and they eventually pull a prank, but it ends up causing a huge war between settlers landing in the fort and the slavers. But they end up saving the day because he's really brave, and they fix it. And Jenny ends up leaving him, and he stays back and finds that his passion's teaching because he wants to save the next generation from repeating the same mistakes of his. If I were to have to pick a genre for the 11th Plague, I would say it's scientific fiction because it takes place in basically the world after it's destroyed. And also, it's kind of realistic fiction because this could totally happen if a disease were to wipe out the population. This is from chapter 25 on page 202. Jenny helped me lower him down until the white glow of his shroud disappeared in the darkness at the bottom of the grave. He looked like a child curled up and helpless, alone. I reached into my back pocket and found the sharp edge of our family photograph. I raised it up into the dim moonlight, tracing the lines of me and Mom and Dad smiling together for one of the last times, before holding it over the grave and dropping it in. It fluttered like a leaf and settled onto his chest. I stood there for some time, feeling the pull of the grave, like a cold arm wrapping itself around my shoulders and drawing me down with him. I took up the shovel and filled the hole. When it was done, I stumbled and fell back onto the ground. A new swirl of snow appeared out of the gray, lightning sky. It seemed like the body of a great white bear tumbling down on me, its claws outstretched. I shut my eyes and let it have me. This is just really important because it shows how much Stephen's father meant to him. And when he died, he just completely lost hope because that's all he had left. Because at this point, he had already lost his mom and his grandpa. So this just kind of symbolized his loss of hope at this point, and he felt alone. On a scale of 1 to 5, I would rate this book a 3 because I like the storyline, I like the way it was written, but I hated the ending because I wanted Jenny and Steven to like fall in love and get married and to have kids rather than her leaving him. And it kind of left us on a cliffhanger because she had like promised him he'd come back, but we didn't know, and no one wants to see a couple in love separated. So it's kind of a heartbreaker for the reader. If I had to describe this book in one word, it would be perseverance because I felt like just all the time Stephen was getting pushed around, but he always got back up. Like when his mom died, when his dad died, when his grandpa died, he just kept going. And when Jenny left him, he found something else to devote his time to and put his passion into. And when his town burned down, he helped put it back together. And just no matter what, he just always had something to rebound, and he kept pushing through. And I mean, that's what this book was about. And he fought the plague, and the world around him was completely destroyed, and he had no reason to live, nothing to live for. But he just kept going so that he could make life a better place. My best friend would probably be Jenny because she's really just kind of mysterious and she's rebellious and she's kind of a troublemaker and she likes to have fun and she's not a super girly girl and she kind of keeps to herself and stays away from drama and she just kind of goes with the flow and she's really laid back and I think our personalities would get along really well. And I think we'd balance each other out because I'm more like outgoing and she's shy and I don't know, I feel like we'd be just a good balance from one another's personalities. My enemy by far would be Steven's grandpa because I hate being told what to do and his grandpa was always barking out orders and thought he had authority over everybody. He thought he was the smartest, always thought his idea was the best, and it was what he says goes, and he never let anyone else put input in. And I don't like to be pushed around, and I like to have a say in everything, and I'm kind of stubborn, so our personalities would clash a lot. Plus, he would beat Steven and his dad and backhand him and stuff, and I don't let anyone push me around. And I would probably stand up to him at one point and get in a fight or whatever, but I don't let anybody push me around, and I'd stand up for myself, so we definitely would not get along. This book, it did fulfill my expectations of it because I knew it was a Truman, so I knew it had to be good, and it was a really good book, and it was well written, and a lot of my friends had told me about it and told me I needed to read it and that it was a quick read, it was fun. So, yeah, it was everything I thought it'd be. It was really short, straight to the point. It did kind of drag on in the middle, but for the most part, it was really interesting, and it was kind of a page turner. And I hate to read, and I usually don't get into books, but this book was easy for me to get into. Some themes that the author explores in the 11th Plague are that, no matter what life throws at you, that if you push and you don't give up, that you will survive and you'll be okay and you will be successful. Like, the plague had wiped out all these people, but Stephen was immune to it, and he pushed on and he made a life for himself. And that's just like life. If you lay down and you don't do your stuff, and then you'll fade out, while those who work hard, they'll be successful. And also it shows just kind of that, you need to live your life, and that life can be taken from you so quickly, and that you need to enjoy the time you have with the people that you love, because at any moment they could disappear and die and not be there. So you always need to expect the unexpected and to just love everyone you have. I think that the author symbolizes like the plague by death, and that it can take all these things away from you, but that you have to make the most of what it takes. And when when life throws stuff at you, you have to make the best of it, and you have to persevere. Like when the plague had taken his grandpa and his dad and his mom, Stephen he continued to push through, and he had more hope, and it made him a better man. And he learned that life wasn't all fun and games, and it gave him a new outlook. But I think that the symbols of the plague and of perseverance are death and loss, because those are the things that made Stephen persevere and keep going. I'm gonna remember most about this book just all the relationships that Stephen had with the people that he loved and that he had to let go of, but that he was so strong about. Because it just like makes me think of my life, and I don't know what I would do if I lost my mom or my dad or my grandpa. Like, I don't think I could be able to keep going and be so positive about life like Stephen was. And he just kept going, and he never let anything get him down. And I can't even imagine the pain that would cause. But I think the most important scene in this book was when Stephen did lose his father. Because, he just, for the first time in the whole book, he had shown, like, that he was sad and he did have feelings. And it made him just take a step back at life and to realize, like, what am I doing? And he realized that there's other people out there and that he has friends and that everything happens for a reason. And for the first time, Stephen, like, wanted to change things, and it gave him motivation. So, that scene just kind of changed his whole outlook on life and changed the whole book. Because without that, he would still be taking care of his dad, and he would have never really had time for Jenny. He would have never gone to school. So it really changed the whole book, really. I think a reader that would enjoy this book is someone who's looking for a quick read and something interesting, because this book it's like nothing I've ever read before. And the topic is actually just really interesting because like it really could happen and it gets your mind going. So it's definitely for someone who's looking for something intriguing and something quick. But yeah, it's a good book, and I think anyone would enjoy it. I'd probably say they need to be in high school though, because some parts are kind of hard to understand.